Philippines is home to more than 100 million people, and millions more living around the world either holding dual citizenships or being naturalized citizens of countries they are currently residing in. Despite the promise and the experience of a better life in another country, some still consider the Philippines their home. This is made possible by becoming a dual citizen through retention and reacquisition. Retention is to continue becoming a Filipino citizen, while reacquisition is the process of gaining Filipino citizenship. By applying for either retention or reacquisition of their Filipino citizenships, they can enjoy the rights and privileges that come with being a Filipino, such as purchasing properties, engaging in businesses, practicing their professions in the Philippines, and having the right to vote and the right to hold a Philippine passport. Can anyone apply for the retention or reacquisition of Philippine citizenship? What are the requirements and how much will the fees cost? If you are not eligible to retain or reacquire your Filipino citizenship, does this mean you are no longer recognized as a Filipino under the law?
Good evening. You are watching Legal Help Desk. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno.
And I'm Attorney Rod Nepomuceno. Tonight, we will discuss your legal rights on retention and reacquisition of your Filipino citizenship. Our guests for tonight are Attorney Giselle Remulla and Attorney Leila Gloria from the Bureau of Immigration. Good evening. Good evening, Attorney Leila and Attorney Giselle. Yes, ayan. Another very interesting topic because a lot of people, I have a lot of friends who are based in the US, for example, or other countries. They're always asking me about dual citizenship. So I guess let's start off with maybe with you, Attorney Leila. How does one go about securing dual citizenship?
Okay, so first of all, we have to define what dual citizenship is.
Right.
So dual citizenship applies to former natural-born Filipinos.
Okay, former natural-born.
Yes, who acquired naturalization of a foreign citizenship in another country, and then subsequently petition for reacquisition or retention of citizenship here in the Philippines.
Okay.
So the requirements are he has to be natural born and then he naturalized to a foreign citizenship.
So, Attorney Leila, if you apply for citizenship in another country and this is granted to you, you automatically lose your Filipino citizenship.
That was before the RA 9225, but since 2003, you retain your citizenship as long as you petition for the retention. But before 2003, you had to reacquire it. So that's why there's a retention and
so
reacquisition.
you never lose it in a way.
But now, if you don't petition for retention, you also lose your Philippine citizenship.
Yes, it depends on the law of the country to which he or she is changing nationality.
Yeah.
But then most of the time, you have to...
But
Okay, Attorney Giselle, let's pick a popular country that most Filipinos, I think, either apply for or want to become U.S. citizenship. If you become a U.S. citizen, do you lose your Filipino citizenship if you do not file a petition for retention?
For Filipinos who acquire the U.S. citizenship through the process of naturalization, they automatically lose their Filipino citizenship. And hence, they would have to file for the reacquisition of their original citizenship in the Bureau of Immigration or through the U.S. Embassy.
All right. So,
And if you get married, you don't automatically lose your Filipino citizenship just because you married a foreigner, right?
Yes, in our law, we don't lose our citizenship anymore. But before we lost
so when
it.
did the law...
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
Because I'm married to an American and
Yes.
I've been a Filipino
Right,
pa rin
yes.
for the past 3 years. And
When did that change,
that's the
though?
only problem when we travel, magkaiba kami passport.
When did that change na there's no more change of citizenship?
From the time the new constitution was established, yeah.
All right,
So we had equal rights.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, okay. So basically, it applies to natural-born Filipinos. So if you, for example, were born of Filipino parents, but you were born in the U.S., so you're natural-born U.S. American, no?
Yes.
Can you apply for dual citizenship?
No, you cannot. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
There's a different application for that.
Okay, what is that application?
That's called recognition.
Yes.
Can you-
And that same application is also filed with the Bureau of Immigration. And as opposed to the dual citizenship under RA 9225, which is applicable to, as mentioned by Attorney Gloria, to former natural-born Filipinos who get naturalized abroad. The recognition application is applicable only to Filipinos who are simultaneously considered a citizen of our country and of another country as a result of the concurrent application of the different laws of said countries.
Yeah, conflicts of laws.
Yes.
Yeah, so just to give an example, for instance, like you mentioned, a child is born of both Filipino parents and then he was born abroad, then while he is considered as American, he can also apply for recognition as a Filipino citizen.
So it's a different,
It's recognition.
Yes.
it's a different
Meron pa bang
But same effect.
Is there
That's the
still
same effect.
what you call the election of having one citizenship over another? Because before, we had laws na if you are born with two nationalities, for instance, Filipino plus you have a British parent and you're also British at the same time. Before, by 18, you have to pick one citizenship. Do we still have that in the Philippines?
Well, before, in the 1952 Constitution, children born during that time had to elect citizenship if their mother is Filipino. But after when the Constitution, 1973 Constitution came about, and then the new Constitution today, it is no longer required for election. So if there are still Filipinos living at this time and who are required to elect citizenship, then we have to require them to elect citizenship.
to elect citizenship.
And before they can apply for recognition.
Just to further explain what Attorney Gloria just said, the election of Filipino citizenship is applicable to those who are born under the 1935 Constitution.
35.
Yeah, for instance, the father is a Chinese national and the mother is a Filipino, then by the time the person reaches the age of 21, he or she would have to elect Filipino citizenship.
A lot of friends are asking, especially those who are based in the US, how do they go about any process? How do you start off an application for dual citizenship?
Aside from being able to file the dual citizenship application at the Bureau's main office, one can also apply at the US Embassy, or for other countries, the Philippine consulates or embassies in their place.
And then, what are the forms? Is there a basic form that you already have, or can they download it from a site? Or?
The Philippine embassy abroad have embassies abroad have their own forms, but basically the things that they need to establish are the same things that the Bureau of Immigration are trying to establish through the documentary requirements.
Attorney Giselle and Attorney Leila, would you recommend that someone who wants to process either getting a dual citizenship or a petition for retention, hire a lawyer, or is this something that's easy enough to do by yourself?
Actually, you can do this by yourself because you just have to complete the requirements. And we have a checklist of requirements. It's posted in our website at immigration.gov.ph. You can download our forms. And so long as you have the proof of former Filipino citizenship and you take your oath of allegiance with the Bureau and you have all the requirements, it's just documentary requirements, then we can already process your application.
Yes, and also the Bureau has made it a lot easier for our Filipino people since we established a one-stop shop for the dual citizenship applications. And when they go there, they can just bring the documents with them and someone will assist them in putting together all the requirements.
Now,
What about cost?
Yeah.
Is it going to be expensive?
Fees? Yes, it depends on what type of application you apply for. If you're a principal, meaning you're the one who's applying for the petition for yourself, it's around 3,010 pesos. If you have a dependent, that's an additional 1,760 pesos.
For each dependent?
Yes, for each dependent.
now, is it necessary, when you're applying for dual citizenship, is it necessary that the country which you're a citizen of, in the other country, apart from the Philippines, also recognizes dual citizenship law? Because, for example, I was based in Singapore for a while. I was considering it, because I'm a permanent resident there. There was an option to be a Singaporean citizen, but they said I have to renounce my Filipino citizenship. So in a situation like that, does the Philippines recognize dual citizenship even if the other country of which I'm a citizen does not recognize dual citizenship?
Well, for us, for Philippine law, as far as we are concerned, we will recognize the dual citizenship. However, we cannot really tell the foreign country to recognize the same
Filipino.
dual citizenship. So if we approve the dual citizenship of that person here, it could happen that the foreign country will cancel the dual citizenship of that person.
Or will cancel the citizenship there.
Yes,
Like Singapore,
yes.
for example, can cancel my
Yes.
citizenship on account of the fact that I still have
Yes.
Filipino citizenship.
Yes.
Right?
Okay, what about passport uses? If you have two passports, is it allowed for me to enter the Philippines using my Philippine passport and then enter the US using my US passport all during the same trip?
Yes, you will be allowed to use the different passports for your entry and exit from to and from the country. However, the possible problem that one can encounter when they use the foreign passport in exiting the country is that they will be subjected to the rules or laws that are imposed on the foreign citizens who enter our country. Like for instance, if they present the foreign passport to the immigration officer and the immigration officer finds that their tourist visa is not updated, then that would cause them more hassle.
All right, okay. All right, now we have some questions from our viewers, and there's a lot. Derek asks, I am a Filipino but became an American citizen due to consular birth abroad. I acquired my US passport last September and I plan on leaving the country this February. Can I still get a Philippine passport even if I am a US citizen?
For that case, that would fall under the application for recognition because the US law recognizes the rule on jus soli, which means that when you are born in their country, then you are automatically considered a US citizen. So like what I discussed earlier, that person, the one who sent the question, is simultaneously an American citizen and also a Filipino citizen because he was born of Filipino parents, I'm assuming.
Even if he didn't do anything, he has dual citizenship in a way. But you're saying he has to go through a petition of, or a process of recognition.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. I wonder if you're born inside the U.S. Embassy, if you'll be an American citizen, because that's considered American
Territory.
soil. So
Yeah.
that should be an interesting question.
Yes.
From Amy, my father is Taiwanese and my mother is Filipino, but they are not married. I'm using my father's Chinese surname. Is it possible for me to have a dual citizenship even if my parents are not married? What are the steps I should take to become a dual citizen and what are the requirements? So Taiwanese father and Filipino mother, but not married.
Yes. So again, that's recognition because she is not a natural born citizen. So we have to follow the requirements for recognition, not dual citizenship.
But if you have a Filipina mother, you're still considered a natural-born Filipino. Is that correct? Or
because
is that
she had
questionable?
a Filipino mother.
Yes.
Yes. But she did not acquire her citizenship through naturalization, through an overt act of changing her nationality.
All
So
right.
that's the definition. You have to be a former natural born and then you naturalize to another citizenship.
All right.
And just so the audience can have an idea on what to present if they are applying for recognition, they just have to submit a letter request, the NSO birth certificate of their Filipino parent just to establish the source of their claim to Filipino citizenship, and then the foreign passport of the applicant, plus the current and valid passport of their parent.
Addressed to which office or which department of the Bureau of Immigration?
The Board of Special Inquiry handles both dual citizenship under RA 9225, the naturalization, and also the recognition.
All right. Okay, we have another question from Beth. I am a Filipino citizen, but I will become a U.S. citizen on May. Wow, she knows. Do I have to file in a civil registry office here in Manila that I have become a U.S. citizen? If I will file for an application for reacquisition of my Filipino citizenship and become a dual citizen, do I still need to file it in Manila?
Okay, so again, this is a case for recognition. Wait. This is for dual citizenship, but she is not required to apply to file it in Manila because we have foreign service posts in other countries, so they can apply in our Philippine embassy.
How long does it take?
But they do have to register with the civil registry in the Philippines?
Need.
No need.
Yeah,
So
no need.
as soon as she becomes a U.S. citizen, hindi naman niya kailangan.
Yes.
She doesn't really need to register.
Yes.
Yeah. And just so the audience will also know, the process when you apply the dual citizenship abroad is that the Philippine Consulate or Embassy would forward to the Bureau of Immigration main office all the lists of Filipinos who required their citizenship. So we would also have a record of that.
Okay, so that's helpful. No need to register with our civil registry.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping us answer our questions. There are more questions from our viewers. As soon as we get back from this break, Legal Help Desk will return after these reminders. You're still watching Legal Help Desk with our guests, Attorney Giselle Remulla and Attorney Leila Gloria.
All right. Now, when it comes to rights of citizens, diba? Like for example, being able to practice a profession, diba? Sometimes it's required that you're Filipino and all that. Does that get affected whenever you get naturalized abroad? And then you have, let's say, you still haven't gone through the process of reacquiring your citizenship or retaining your citizenship. Can you still practice?
It depends on what profession you're applying for. For example, if it's law, then you are required to be a Filipino citizen. So you have to apply for dual citizenship before you can apply for the license.
So if I get naturalized abroad,
Yes.
let's say for example Karen, who's married to an American, gets naturalized abroad, before she can come back here and practice law again, she has to
get dual citizenship.
dual citizenship.
Through recognition.
Through recognition or
No,
retention?
for retention.
Retention.
Okay.
So I should file a petition for retention even before I get my citizenship approved as an American citizen.
No, after.
After na,
yes.
okay.
Because it's part of the requirements when you apply for retention that you already have the certificate of naturalization of the foreign.
That's one of the requirements.
Yes.
to
Oh,
have.
okay. And out of curiosity, have there been instances where dual citizenship has been denied or
Question?
recognition for dual citizenship been denied?
There are instances wherein we dismiss or deny the applications. The first obvious reason is because they are not qualified. It doesn't mean that when you get the application get dismissed under dual citizenship RA 9225 that the person is not a Filipino. It just happens that the qualifications fall under the other category, which is recognition. But for the normal circumstances, usually the reasons for denial are the submission of fraudulent documents or the lack of the documentary requirements.
Is it also within the purview of the Bureau of Immigration to deny recognition for dual citizenship, for instance, or petition for retention if the other country na yun yung citizenship denies or does not allow for dual citizenship?
No, because actually like what Attorney Gloria discussed earlier, we can accept the application. However, what we do is to just advise the person to be sure of the laws of the foreign country in which they belong, so that they would, because some people apply without knowing that their other country does not allow dual citizenship, so they lose some
They
benefits.
lose some of the benefits there. Now, is it possible for, let's say, a foreigner to, let's say, get, let's say, married to a Filipina? Can a foreigner apply for dual citizenship?
No, they are under a different,
different rule,
visa.
okay.
Yes,
Visa altogether.
visa through marriage.
All right. Okay, we have some questions from our viewers. Aiko sent this question. I was born and raised in the Philippines. My mother is Filipino and my father is Japanese. I plan to live in Japan and work there for 10 years, and I know that Japan does not recognize dual citizenship. I hold 2 passports, but my Philippine passport has already expired. Do I need to renew my passport? Will immigration question me because I don't have a dual citizenship?
Okay.
So it sounds like he's still Filipino, no?
Yes, yeah.
Because his Filipino
It's
It's more
passport
of his
is
passport.
expired.
It's
yeah.
his passport that's expiring,
Yes,
but
it's
he's going to be working. He's going to be working in Japan.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this is again recognition since one parent is a foreigner and the other is a Filipino.
So he was born Filipino.
Yes, but this is more of a DFA matter because you apply passports at the DFA, but they will not grant you the passport unless you prove your citizenship. And you can only prove that by applying for recognition. And then you present the order of recognition before
But it
the
sounds
DFA.
like that our viewer also raised the issue that in Japan, they're not allowed to have dual citizenship.
Yes.
So in this case, I guess he has to clarify first what citizenship he'll keep, right?
Yeah.
Before
Yes.
he-
And I think the dual like in the Philippines, in the Constitution, what is prohibited and shall be dealt with by law is the dual allegiance and not the dual citizenship. Maybe that's, I'm not really sure, but maybe dual allegiance is what is prohibited also in Japan.
In Japan, yeah.
I'm not really sure because here he falls under the category of recognition wherein he did not take a positive act in acquiring the two citizenships.
Yeah. It just so happens he has a Japanese father, and that's the reason why
Yes.
he's recognized as Japanese. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
We have another question from Jo. How can an American citizen become a dual citizen? She is 70 years old and both parents are Filipinos but born in the U.S. The mother was able to enter the Philippines with a Philippine passport.
Okay.
So
we were talking about it earlier, diba? Born of Filipino parents, but born in the U.S.
Yeah, so once again, this falls under the category of recognition because the person is simultaneously a citizen of the Philippines and of the foreign country.
All right. Okay, we have our last question. Oh, it's so fast. From Lawrence, can an Australian citizen have a dual citizenship? I am married to a Filipina, and it is my intention to live in the Philippines. Can our kids have dual citizenship even though they were all born abroad? Okay, so he's asking, I think this was similar to the
sometimes nga may iba
question I
triple
asked.
citizenship eh. Can you imagine? Australian dad, Filipina mom, and then pinanganak sa US. So you have three possible citizenships.
Possible
So
citizenship,
in this
yeah.
case, is that allowed?
Is that Australian allowed to apply for dual citizenship or not, or it's another
So for the
process?
For the kids.
So for the first question of the husband, which is for himself, his question is that can he have a dual citizenship? So obviously he cannot fall under the provisions of RA 9225, which is dual citizenship, naturalization, and also recognition. So maybe he can try to acquire the Filipino citizenship through what we call the naturalization.
Naturalization.
So
Our
he has
country's
to apply
naturalization
for the
process.
Filipino citizenship.
but-
He can't get it by
Yes.
being married to a Filipina. But they're kids. He was asking about, what about our kids? So will the kids be dual citizens?
For this situation, the kids can have two options because they, assuming that the mother is still a Filipino citizen when they were born and their father is an Australian, so they can apply under the recognition application. And in case that the mother has already been naturalized as an Australian citizen and has already reacquired, and considering that the children are still minor, then they can apply as dependents. So that's a
Actually-
quicker process.
We'll have to take a short break for now. Legal Help Desk will return after these messages. You're still tuned in to Legal Help Desk, and joining us now is Attorney Nikki De Vega, Managing Partner of the Nicolas and De Vega Law Office. Good evening, and thank you for being with us tonight, Attorney Nikki.
Good evening, Karen. Good evening, Rod. And good evening to all your viewers.
Good evening. All right, so we were talking about, there are two types of naturalization, right?
yes.
We were discussing this, and I think we initially discussed the administrative type of naturalization, but there is a naturalization process via the courts. Now, can
Yes.
you
And for
clarify?
the first part of our show, we were discussing more of those who were previously Filipino citizens and what you need to do to retain your Philippine citizenship should you acquire a new citizenship. But in terms of someone who's really not a Filipino from the start, what are the types of proceedings for naturalization?
Well, there are three kinds of naturalization for foreigners. So first, which is not very common, is the by legislative directive. So the Congress will enact a law granting citizenship to a certain foreigner.
And some examples would be, I think, during the 1970s,
Yes,
we've
matagal
had
na yan.
athletes who were
Yes.
foreigners who became Filipinos
Yes.
just to qualify.
So we can win.
So we can win.
Yeah, exactly. So we can win gold medals.
Yeah, that's the way to do
Yes.
it. Okay.
But the most common forms of naturalization would be through the courts or administrative proceedings. If you will lodge it through the courts, that's under Commonwealth Act 473. If you lodge it before a special committee of three, that's that's under Republic Act 9139.
And the newest law among those three would be the Republic Act 1929. 9139, wherein you have a committee of three.
Yes.
What type of proceeding do you have with this committee of three?
It's faster here. It's administrative, unlike with courts. As we all know, it would really lag on for years. But not all can lodge naturalization proceedings under 9139. In order for you to be able to avail of the benefits under this law, you must have been born in the Philippines and residing here since birth. Because there are some foreigners who were born here and they have known no other country than the Philippines. So that's the rationale behind this, that the law does not want to make it difficult for them to become Filipino citizens.
They were born of foreign parents.
Yes,
Yeah,
there are many, like the Chinese that you see who
That's
own
right.
stalls in Binondo,
Right,
but
right.
they have not yet secured their Philippine citizenships, and they have children here. Their children are raised here.
They just
and-
assumed they were Filipino.
Yes, and they don't go to other countries. They speak the local dialect. So that only applies to those kinds of foreigners. But if you are just a foreigner you were born outside, or even if you were born here but you did not continuously reside here, say you went back to your country of origin, you have to lodge it through the courts, and that's under Commonwealth Act 473.
Okay, so
When you lodge it with the courts, how do you begin that petition? Are
Well,
there-
before you, so this is a tedious process, no? It takes years because before you even file a petition in court, you have to file a declaration of intention. So a year before you file the petition.
is that a form that's
Yes.
readily available, or do I have to go to a lawyer
Well, since
to
it's
get that
lodged
form?
with the courts, I really do suggest that you consult with a lawyer because the courts are very strict with the requirements.
Right.
If you fail to attach certain documents or you fail to allege, it can be dismissed. So sayang lang ang petition mo, then you have to wait another year to lodge an intention. So I really suggest they get a lawyer. And there are stricter requirements pagka sa courts as opposed to administrative proceedings.
And it's stricter for the foreigners that you mentioned, nga, na those who were
Born
here
abroad.
but lived abroad,
Yes.
or those who really were
Stricter.
born abroad.
Because the principle of our law is that applications for naturalization are strictly construed against the applicant because the Filipino citizenship is a privilege. So uusisain talaga ng korte or even the committee if you're worthy to become Filipino.
It's interesting when you say privilege, when in fact a lot of
We take it
people
for granted.
criticize that our tax
Yes.
system is higher than other countries. But I think to be more practical, normally those who want to acquire Philippine citizenship are those who want to either retire here or get married to someone from the
Yes.
Philippines. If you get married to a Filipina or a Filipino, so you're a foreigner but you want to be a Philippine citizen, are the requirements different?
Let me make a distinction. Dito medyo may nuance yung law, may discrimination.
Okay.
So if the foreigner is female, and that female foreigner marries a Filipino, hindi niya kailangan dumaan dito eh. It is by virtue of derivative citizenship wherein she will become Filipino. So she will just file a petition for cancellation of her alien certificate of registration. Yun
So,
ay kung ang asawa niya ay lalaking Pinoy.
Pinoy, yeah.
Foreigner yung babae.
So it's easier for a foreign woman.
Female foreigner.
Yes.
Yeah, foreign woman.
Yeah.
oh.
Pero kung lalaki ka na foreigner, you marry a Filipina, no. You have to file a case in court or yung administrative proceedings. May double treatment, double
Yeah,
standard.
double standard.
ganyan.
May,
So that would apply-
may discrimination na
So it's
konti.
going to be
Yes.
harder for my American husband to get Philippine citizenship.
Yes, mas mahirap. Kasi I think
Why is that? Why is the law like that?
we still subscribe to the traditional view that the wife follows the nationality of her husband. Di ba yun yung traditional? So,
Yes.
ganun ang nakikerry over pa rin hanggang ngayon.
So
No.
it's the same requirements for someone who's married to a Filipina. For instance, my husband, he's American, so if he wants to become Filipino, it's the same requirements, basically.
Yun, he has to go to the court, lodge the proceedings, so taon ng bilangan. Unlike kung babae, yung foreigner, just really cancellation of alien certificate of registration. Walang court proceeding na yan.
Walang court
It's very
proceeding. So
easy.
the documentation that's required, is it the same for a woman, a foreign woman, and a foreign man, or are there more documentation requirements for
More
a
documentary
foreign- okay.
requirements for a male
I see.
foreigner.
So basically, it's still the same requirement as someone who's not married to a Filipino woman to file for that naturalization. It's just the same.
Yes,
no.
yes.
Okay. But what about retirees? We have a special law on
SRRV.
yes, exactly, granting privileges to those who are foreigners who want to retire in the Philippines. The retirement or retiree visa, does that make becoming a Filipino easier?
Not necessarily, no? Kasi hindi naman siya take into consideration by the law. The benefits of the SRRV would just be to reside here, and but it does not vest citizenship. You still have, again, to go back to Commonwealth Act 473 sa mga requirements to see if you're eligible to apply for naturalization.
Now, Attorney Nikki, what are the qualifications? No? You discussed about the nuances of men and women,
Yes.
foreign men and women. But ano yung basic qualifications of applying for citizenship?
Well, if I may just start first with yung court-lodged naturalization. Kasi may iba rin siyang qualification.
So, let's start
They
with-
share some common qualifications, pero may nuances din eh.
Okay.
Pag sa court, you must have been at least 21 years of age at the date of the first hearing.
Okay.
Unlike sa administrative naturalization, you must be at least 18 years of age at the time you file the petition.
Okay.
So, ganon. But sa administrative naturalization, you must have been born in the Philippines and residing therein since birth. If you file it through the courts, you must have resided in the Philippines, continuous residency for at least 10 years.
Okay.
So,
Before
mahaba
you
yun.
even file
Yes.
that intention
But it can be
declaration.
shortened to 5 years. If you're married to a Filipina, or you have held office in government, you have introduced a new industry in the Philippines, or naging teacher ka for 2 years sa Pilipinas, para
So
may
there are
binibigay silang...
certain
May certain types of
preferred
professions that
preferred
they...
professions or preferred circumstances.
Yes,
Yeah.
oo.
And again, we're talking about, for the courts, we're talking about those who may have been born here, but or perhaps those people who were born abroad, lived there, and then decided to come
Yeah.
here. No?
Hindi gusto
We're not
maging
talking
Pinoy.
about let's say foreigners who have been born here,
Yes,
raised here, and all
raised,
that.
oo.
Yun sa administrative part yun, yung
Yes.
three-man committee.
Yes, 3-man.
Sa BI, sa
Solicitor
General. Yes, that's
Yes.
right. Okay.
So the
Now-
Bureau of Immigration has nothing to do with that administrative proceeding.
Yes, hindi. Isa lang
Wala.
siya sa mga concerned agencies na pinapadalhan ng Committee of Three kasi before it is approved, no, the petition will be given to the Bureau of Immigration, NBI, Civil Registrar so that they can comment. Baka may derogatory records. Yun yung participation doon ng Bureau of Immigration. But ito more sa Committee of Three, which is based in the Office of the Solicitor General.
So this is something we should really clarify because earlier we were talking about certain types of petitions that you should file with the Bureau of Immigration, and but those, or the Department of Foreign Affairs, but those usually have something to do with the retention of Philippine citizenship or those petitions for getting dual citizenship.
Pero for this one, itong naturalization that we're talking about here, it's either with the Office of the Solicitor General
Or the court.
or the courts. No?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, what are the qualifications?
So aside from age,
Yeah.
good moral character.
There you
So
go.
importante.
How do you determine that? How do you?
So past criminal records, what if you were sued abroad before?
Well, ganito mangyayari. You have to attach to your petition affidavits of 2 credible witnesses who have known you for at least 10 years, and they will attest that you are of good moral character.
So
As a-
reference, parang
yes,
reference.
parang gano'n. And then strict rin yung courts, no, and even the Committee of Three, kailangan credible din tong witnesses mo. So, titingnan rin yung character ng dalawa mong witnesses if indeed they have the capacity to say that they've known you for 10 years. And also, dapat yung witnesses mo should not have been convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude. So, mataas din yung standard na hinihingi
So right
doon.
now we have good moral character and the age as some of the
Qualification.
qualifications shared in common, both in the administrative
Yes.
and the court case for naturalization. We'll get back to the other requirements, but for now we'll have to take a short break. Legal Help Desk will return after these reminders. You're still watching Legal Help Desk with our guest, Attorney Nikki De Vega.
All right. So let's talk about the other requirements. We've talked about the age requirements. You said there was a difference, 21 yung for the courts and 18 for yung administrative,
Yes.
no? With the Office of the Solicitor General.
And then good moral
and good moral
character.
character.
Yes.
Ano pa bang mga other qualifications?
Well, there are financial requirements. So you must have a lucrative trade, profession, or occupation. And then, say, for example, you have children, you must have enrolled them in schools here in the Philippines, which which teach Philippine history, the Constitution. So, also, in terms of, kailangan din, very important, ito, I just have to draw the line, yung court and then administrative. Sa court, they require the foreigner to be able to speak English or Spanish and any Filipino dialect.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Pero
and
ang
Spanish,
yes,
Rod,
yeah,
take
English
note.
or Spanish.
Yeah.
Kasi ang luma na ng Commonwealth Act 473,
nga,
but it
473,
still
yeah.
holds true, eh, no?
So
Pero
it's Filipino or Spanish?
English or
Sorry,
Spanish
English or Spanish.
And then
And,
a common
and
a
a
Filipino dialect.
Filipino dialect. As opposed to yung sa administrative proceedings, ang nire-require lang nila any Filipino or any local dialect. So mas liberal sa
Yeah.
administrative proceeding.
Are there any other requirements apart from those, and maybe documentary requirements naman? Maybe
Well, another
documentary.
qualification, lastly, dapat the foreigner must show that he has mingled with Filipinos and evince his desire to embrace the traditions, customs of the Philippines. Yun. For documentary requirements, when you file your petition, you must attach therein yung mga affidavits, as I mentioned, proof of financial capacity, ITR for the past 3 years, and also medical certificate. Kasi one of the disqualification is if you have
a disease,
mental
yeah.
alienation or an incurable contagious disease.
What about STDs, sexually transmitted diseases?
Well, kung
might
curable
they fall
siya,
under?
If it's curable, so it might, you can argue that you are still eligible kasi ang bawal is incurable contagious disease.
Okay.
And
Yes,
Attorney Nikki, what if you are, for instance, a foreigner, and then you're already applying for your naturalization, and then a case gets filed against you, or you get complained of administratively or even at the barangay level? Is that something that would be detrimental to your application?
It depends, no? The conviction must be based on moral turpitude. So kung kaso
So ang
lang,
kailangan conviction,
conviction,
hindi,
yes.
not any existing
any
complaint or...
Yes.
Otherwise,
Pero
any
ang
case can
strict
be
lang,
taken
you can
against
be
you.
disqualified if you commit acts inimical to national security. So there's no requirement for...
espionage.
Or let's say you
treason.
get involved in in a anti-government rally.
Yeah, that's debatable kasi di ba may freedom tayo of expression. But I always tell my clients na parang, huwag ka muna sumama sa rally. Kasi, syempre, it can be construed as
taken
parang
against you.
sedition, di ba? Pwede kang kasuhan. And you could be disqualified.
Yeah, but for other types of offenses, like for instance, physical injuries,
Ay, oo, hindi
or
naman, okay lang yun.
hindi siya, you need a conviction before you...
Yes, conviction.
Okay, we have some questions, Attorney Nikki, from our viewers. Sophia asked, I am Korean, but I was born here in the Philippines, and I've lived here ever since. I consider myself more as a Filipino than as a Korean. Can I make it official by applying for naturalization of citizenship? Yeah.
Okay, so Sophia, I think, can qualify under the administrative naturalization. Since she said that she was born here and she's been here, so mas madali, no? As long as at least she's 18 years of age, she can file with the Office ng Solicitor General the petition.
And yan, no need for a lawyer.
I suggest may lawyer kasi may
guide you
jurisdictional
along.
requirements eh. If you don't allege certain facts in your petition, it can be dismissed outright. So sayang talaga.
Sayang yung effort
Oo.
din nila. And of course, Sophia has to be at least 18 years of age
Yes.
when she files that. And
Okay.
if she's not 18, she has to wait.
She has to wait.
And from Graham, another question. What are the requirements needed to apply for naturalization, and what is the ballpark figure of how much I will be spending for this?
Okay. Well, yung requirements, so I again distinguish, but common dyan yung petition, no? So you file either with the Solgen or the special committee, and then kasama yung mga affidavits, birth certificate, medical certificate, yun yung common requirements. Now, yung ballpark figure, no? Mas mura mag-file sa courts, but then mas matagal. Mura ang filing fee.
When you say matagal, how long is that period?
Years ang bilangan mo eh. As with any traditional litigation, we know that it takes years. You always have to depend on the schedule of the judge, yung sala niya kung puno. Kasi sa regional trial court to, where you're residing.
And who are you up against?
You're up against the Republic of the Philippines as represented by the Solicitor General. So hindi to parang wala kang kalaban. Meron talagang mag-uusisa ng mga dokumento mo and they will defend also their stance. No? Pero pag administrative naturalization, although it's faster, it's more expensive. When you file...
When you say more expensive, by how much?
Kasi ang filing fee pa lang niya nasa batas mismo 40,000 pesos.
Wow,
That's big already kasi sa courts mga ilang thousands lang eh. And then, before you take your oath of allegiance, in case it's approved, you have to pay 100,000 pesos as naturalization fee. So yun yung mga filing fees lang yan. Wala pa yung lawyer. So
Yes.
the ballpark figure for filing fees sa administrative naturalization, mga 150. Pag sa courts, less than 50,000 ang filing fees. As for lawyers' fees, ibang usapan naman yon. So,
Yeah,
it will range. Mas mabilis, of course, pag administrative naturalization. I expect around just a year or so. If the committee will do its task properly. No? Pero sa courts, year yun eh. Kasi as I mentioned, may declaration of intention pa a year before.
Yeah.
Oo,
And
so-
how many hearings are we talking about here? Let's say the court at saka sa OSG, so Office of the Solicitor General. How many more or less hearings will you have?
Sa court, full-blown hearing yan eh. So there will be, depende rin sa schedule ng court, depende rin sa mga objections ng Solgen. So maraming hearings yan. Sa administrative committee, there is no hearing per se. So it can actually be decided based on your petition.
The submission.
Only when the special committee thinks that you need to clarify certain matters. May they call you for an interview. They call it an interview. It's not, so it's summary. So walang hearing sa administrative proceeding.
And I guess we also have to clarify with our viewers that when you're talking about a court being less expensive, that's in terms of the filing fees. But then if you hire an expensive lawyer and it's gonna take at least 5 years, 10 years, because it takes longer than the administrative case, then actually you might end up spending more.
Yes.
But what if you lose your citizenship? Earlier during this show, we were discussing with the Bureau of Immigration that before you acquire a new citizenship, you should file a petition for retention of your Philippine citizenship. But what if you forget to do that, so you end up losing your Philippine citizenship and then acquiring a new one, but you still want to become both a Filipino and a foreign citizen? What do you do in that case?
You don't file for naturalization in that case. There are other remedies provided sa by the immigration. Kung sa may iba repatriation, may iba yung reacquisition, may iba recognition, but definitely hindi naturalization. It is not the procedure for a former
But
Filipino.
also, if you don't mind not becoming a dual citizen, this happened to actually one of my aunts. She became a German citizen, and then later on she wanted to become Filipino again. Is that going to be a naturalization case?
No, kasi kung Filipino siya dati, reacquisition yan eh.
Okay, and it's through the courts pa rin? Through the courts?
No, pag reacquisition sa Bureau of Immigration
Bureau of
ka lang.
Bureau of Immigration.
So
maraming,
Yeah,
maraming
it's
mga
quicker.
Pinoy sa US, talagang
Yeah, I
form
think-
lang yon, $50. And then,
In terms of difficulty, reacquisition is the easiest.
yes.
All right. All right. Well, that's all the time that we have for tonight. We'd like to thank our guest, Attorney Nikki De Vega, for being with us. Thank you very much,
You're
Attorney Nikki.
welcome.
Thank you, Attorney Nikki.
All right, that's it. I'm Attorney Rod Nepomuceno.
And I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno. If you have any questions about our topic for tonight, you may post these on our Facebook and Twitter pages. Join us again next Monday as we discuss your legal rights. Good night.